Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
Okay, so you know that whole work from home fantasy. Like picturing yourself rolling out of bed straight into peak productivity, rocking your pajamas all day. I bet for a lot of you, it probably didn't quite pan out that way, right?
Yeah, that whole pajamas equals productivity thing kind of crashes and burns pretty quick when you try to make it a reality. You end up facing this weird puzzle.
Right.
How do you actually get things done when your living room is also your office?
It really is a puzzle, isn't it? And this whole work from home thing, well, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, is it?
Nope, not at all. It's here to stay, and in a big way. Just think, by next year, 2025, they're saying over 30% of the workforce right here in the US will be working remotely. That's huge.
That's a lot of people working from home.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to make this work, how to stay productive, what's not just like a nice to have anymore. It's becoming the new norm.
It really is, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
We've dug through a ton of research and reports on working from home to try and make sense of all this. And our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most practical, like those immediately useful strategies for staying on top of your game when your commute is basically just walking down the hall.
Think of it this way. We're giving you the cheat codes to conquer that work-from-home productivity puzzle.
Exactly. We've boiled it all down to 5 core strategies that seem to pop up again and again, and we're going to walk you through each one.
Think of this as your personal blueprint for really turning your home environment into a productivity powerhouse. We're not talking about major renovations or anything, just simple and smart and, most importantly, consistent habits that can really make a big difference in your focus and output.
I love it. A blueprint for productivity. Okay, so let's jump right in. Tip number 1 might seem super basic, but it's honestly the foundation for everything else. Setting up a dedicated workspace. So we're not talking about just like firing off a few emails from the couch in between Netflix episodes, are we?
Yeah. No way. As comfy as the couch is, it usually tells your brain, okay, time to relax. And that's kind of the opposite signal you want when you're trying to get work done.
Correct.
The big idea here is to pick a spot in your home that's mainly, if not completely, just for work. Get this. Studies actually show you can boost your focus by about 25% just by having a dedicated workspace, compared to flitting around from the couch to the kitchen table to the bed. It's like giving your work self a physical home base.
A 25% boost just from where you're sitting? That's impressive.
Right. And you don't have to go all out and create this fancy Instagram-worthy home office either.
So you're saying I don't need to go into debt to get a standing desk?
Nope, not at all. It could be a quiet corner in your bedroom, an unused desk if you have one, even just claiming one end of the kitchen table consistently. One article we read even suggested a simple folding table, which you can snag for like $20 as a totally workable option. The real key isn't about how much you spend or how big the space is, it's that consistency. You're training your brain to link that specific spot with getting work done.
It's all about creating that mental association, right? I get it. So tip number 1. Find your dedicated work zone. Carve out that space. Okay, what's the next piece of the puzzle? How do we actually structure our day to maximize productivity at home?
Tip number 2 is all about time management. It's about sticking to a routine religiously. You know, when you're working from home, the freedom and flexibility can be amazing, but it can also be a bit of a trap.
Oh, tell me about it. Suddenly those dishes in the sink look super appealing, or you decide to check the news real quick, and an hour later you're like, wait, where did the time go?
Exactly.
Yeah.
To combat that slippery slope, the best advice is to set up a clear schedule for yourself, just like you'd have in an office. Like maybe stick with a regular 9 to 5 workday, but block out specific times for breaks. Taking it a step further with time blocking can be a total game changer for many people. This means actually planning out chunks of time dedicated to certain tasks. One source suggested 90 minutes of focused work followed by a 15-minute break, something like that. The idea is to actively carve out your workday, not let it just happen to you.
So it's about being proactive rather than reactive with your time. Got it. Are there any tools out there that can help with this kind of structured scheduling? Like apps or something?
Oh, tons. There are tons of apps specifically made for time management, like Toggle, which tracks how you're spending your time, or even just using the calendar app on your phone or computer to visually block out work times. And here's a really interesting tidbit. Data from Rescue Time, which is a time management app, shows that sticking to a consistent routine can actually slash procrastination by a whopping 40%.
Wow, 40% less procrastination. That's a game changer. So having that set routine helps get rid of procrastination.
Okay.
Okay, so what about that morning routine? What does that look like when you're working from home?
It's still so important, right? It can really set you up for success. So whether it's enjoying a quiet cup of coffee before everyone else is up, doing some light stretches, or just quickly reviewing your to-do list for the day, a consistent morning ritual helps you mentally prep for work. It builds momentum and tells your brain, okay, game on, workday has started, even if your commute was just from your bed to your desk.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about our physical workspace. We've covered setting a solid routine. Now for a tip that always sparks some debate when it comes to working from home.
hmm
Dress for success. But with a little twist. We're not talking about needing to suit up just to sit at your kitchen table, right?
No, definitely not, unless you want to, of course.
Yeah.
But the real point here is to understand the psychological effect of what you wear, even if you're your own only coworker. As comfy as those PJs are, staying in them all day can blur the lines between work mode and relax mode, even sleep mode.
Yeah, like your brain doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing, relaxing or working. Yep.
Exactly. There's this really cool concept called enclothed cognition, which basically says that what we wear doesn't just affect how we look, but it can actually impact our thoughts and feelings.
Interesting. So our clothes are sending messages to our brains.
Exactly. So even just changing out of your PJs into something you'd consider your work-at-home clothes can help you shift into a more focused mindset. And it can boost your focus by around 20%, according to some studies. And there was this survey from 2024, just last year, that found remote workers who made a bit of an effort to dress up, even if it was just jeans and a collared shirt, reported feeling about 15% more professional throughout their workday. So it's less about impressing anyone else and more about giving yourself that mental cue that it's work time.
I like that. It's like a signal to your brain to switch gears. Okay, so we've got our dedicated workspace, we're sticking to a routine, and we're even dressing the part. What's the next big hurdle to tackle in this work-from-home productivity marathon?
Next up, and this can be a big one for a lot of people, is all about distractions. Or really about minimizing distractions as much as possible because, let's face it, our homes, as lovely as they are full of things trying to distract us, stuff you just wouldn't have to deal with in an office.
Oh, I feel that. It's like suddenly that pile of laundry is screaming your name, or you get the urge to reorganize your entire bookshelf. And that's not even factoring in the chaos if you've got kids or pets running around.
It's a minefield.
Yeah.
So the advice here is to be really proactive about setting boundaries to minimize these distractions. It all starts with setting clear expectations with anyone you live with about your work hours. Let them know when you absolutely cannot be interrupted.
That sounds simple enough, but depending on who you live with, it can be tough, can it?
Totally. It takes some communication and planning and sometimes some creativity too.
Agreed. Now, what about more concrete ways to block out the noise and those, well, unavoidable distractions?
Noise-canceling headphones are a game changer. You can get a really decent pair for around $50, and they make a huge difference in blocking out background noise.
They really do.
And then don't underestimate the power of just muting those non-essential notifications on your phone and computer. Every single ping, ding, and buzz pulls you away from whatever you're trying to focus on. Think about how often you automatically reach for your phone when you hear it go off consciously. Muting those distractions can really free up your mental energy.
It's so true. We've become slaves to those notifications, haven't we?
We really have. And the effect those interruptions have on us is way bigger than we realize. There was a study from UC Irvine that found it takes about 23 minutes on average to fully regain your focus after an interruption. Think about how many times a day you get interrupted.
That's insane. 23 minutes. It really puts things in perspective.
It really does. The effect on your productivity really adds up. One technique that can really help you stay focused, even with distractions, is the Pomodoro technique. Have you heard of that one?
I have. Isn't that one where you work for a set time, then take a break?
Yeah, exactly. You work in focused 25-minute intervals and then take a quick 5-minute break. It's a structured way to stay engaged, and it kind of minimizes the impact of those little distractions that are bound to pop up.
So it's all about incorporating breaks as part of your work routine.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, so far we've talked about our workspace, having a routine, dressing for work, even at home, and tackling those pesky distractions. What's the final key to this whole work-from-home productivity puzzle?
Last but definitely not least is the power of taking breaks that actually recharge you. It might seem counterintuitive, especially when you're feeling swamped, but purposely stepping away from work throughout the day can majorly boost your overall productivity and help you avoid burnout in the long run.
It's like the whole work smarter, not harder thing.
Right.
But I totally get it. When you're in the zone, it's hard to stop.
It is, but pushing yourself for hours without a break can lead to mental fatigue and make it harder to concentrate. And eventually, well, you burn out, which just makes you less productive in the long run. Research shows that taking short breaks, like around 10 minutes every hour, can actually increase your productivity by as much as 13%. Think of it as hitting the reset button for your brain. But just as important as taking breaks is what you do during those breaks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The sources we looked at warned against what they call dopamine trapping breaks. So things like scrolling through social media. Yeah, they might distract you for a few minutes, but they don't really help you recover mentally. And you often end up feeling more drained and less focused when you go back to work.
I'm definitely guilty of those dopamine trapping breaks. So what are we supposed to do instead during our break time?
The advice is to do things that genuinely recharge you.
So give me some examples. Like, what are some good recharging break activities?
So many options. Get up and stretch, take a quick walk outside if you can for some fresh air and a change of scenery, or even just look away from your computer and focus on something far away to give your eyes and your mind a little break. There's also this thing called the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break to look at something at least 20 feet away. It's simple, but it helps reduce eye strain and gives your mind a mini reset. The goal is to go back to work feeling refreshed and ready to tackle the next task with renewed focus. It's about being as intentional with your breaks as you are with your work.
Got it. Intentional breaks. I love it. So to recap, we've covered the 5 key strategies to supercharge your work from home productivity. Set up a dedicated workspace, create a consistent routine, put some thought into what you wear, be proactive about minimizing distractions, and take those strategic recharging breaks. Did we miss anything?
I think that covers it. And the best part is that none of this is super complicated or requires spending a ton of money. It's about setting up structure in your day, creating boundaries, and being disciplined in your homework environment. Simple, but effective. I like it. So for everyone listening right now, think about how you're working from home. What's one small, doable change you could make today based on what we've talked about? Maybe it's finally claiming that corner in your living room as your official workspace, or setting a fixed start time for your workday tomorrow.
Yeah, just start with one thing. That first step is so important, and you don't have to do everything at once. Just one consistent positive change can make a real difference in your productivity.
Couldn't agree more. And with these strategies, you can turn your home into a real productivity powerhouse. You don't have to let it be an obstacle to getting things done. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive into working from home productivity.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Until next time, stay productive.